So Brahms' Fourth Symphony is definitely one of a kind. It's so different than the other three symphonies. It's in E minor. It has a lot more sort of tumultuous parts, and it definitely has the Giacoso movement in the middle, which kind of stands out for a certain reason, but it really has this very dark tone to it, especially the way it ends with this sort of very angry sense, but also with this sort of tortured beginning. And that's what we're going to start on right now. We're going to just work on this very introduction. It's a very commonly asked excerpt. So as you can see, it's allegro non troppo. It's basically cut time, which makes sense. The pulse is generally not too fast, but you definitely have to hear these constant running ace, da da dee da 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 dee da, and that's kind of how you're going to get your tempo. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and 2 ya da. Sometimes you might want to linger on that first quarter note before you come in. It's somewhat traditional because coming in is actually a little bit sort of scary when you're playing it in this section because you don't always know exactly how the conductor is going to show it. So you're kind of waiting there, very sort of a little bit nervous, but very sort of, prepared for sure with the right and left hand. So that being said, I would start with a very prepared left hand, second finger on G, fourth finger on B. I would suggest starting it down bow. I think it has a little bit more comfort, and you don't want to play it too softly. Okay, you might do that in a symphony orchestra, but I think in an orchestral excerpt in an audition situation, I think it's better to start it down bow. And I might use a little bit more vibrato for that first note. Okay, but do make sure that all these half notes get their full value. Try to listen to the eighth notes before you come in, so get your tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 3 and ba da dee da dee da 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 dee da. That kind of gives you your pulse, and you stay really consistent, constantly having that running through your system at all times. Another thing to really focus on is the different changing harmonies. Okay, so change colors every time you have a new sort of chord. And then recognize this sort of hairpin diminuendo, okay, and then back to something different, a different color. And then, same thing here, and maybe a little less. And then be ready to start this next crescendo with this fourth finger C natural. And make sure you do every single hairpin. Be very diligent about these hairpins. Within the crescendo. A little bit more, a little bit more, okay? Always maintaining good rhythm. I don't know if it was perfectly in time there, but I'm going to count a little bit better here. Okay, really making sure you're making a nice long phrase. And then when you get to this next bar here, make sure you have these little interruptions. Always, though, playing these full value quarter notes. And then start this next crescendo. Very sustained, very Brahmsian. Then do make sure at the end of each slur that the quarter note gets its full value. And you're vibrating. Sustained. Until we get there, okay? You don't want to in any way rush ahead. You're making a crescendo, so the tendency is to maybe push forward. Just stay very solid with your tempo. Da, dee, da, dee, da, dee, da. And then here, I go up to the G string. I like it there. That's how I do it when I play in the orchestra. You can definitely do this on the D string. Like I said, making it sound like the G string. However, I really think it sounds more virtuosic to go up to that high B. Hopefully you don't have a wolf tone on that note. After this, sustain this B, and then here, you have to make a nice diminuendo. And I think a little trick for this sort of fingering here, I do 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, all slurred together. I would keep the hand really locked in the fifth position and use the body of the violin as sort of something to lean on. Don't come away from the violin. Use this sort of leverage of the body and then just do a little pivot shift with a nice quiet sort of block shift. So, okay. All right, so really make sure, again, you have the right sound, the right color, the right vibrato. I didn't talk too much about the vibrato. It definitely doesn't want to be too sizzly. It doesn't want to be too intense, but it definitely has to be sustained as much as possible. Constantly singing every single note to the end of the note and beginnings of note and ends, okay? And then here, be a little bit less intense with the vibrato, okay? And then each hairpin after that, a little bit more, just to kind of give it that sort of natural sort of crescendo through it, okay? Again, lots of vibrato, sustain. And really, like I say, go for it. Make sure that the sound, that the bow speed is really thick and dark. Especially when you're doing these down bow crescendos. And then here too, you gotta really learn to sustain with a slow bow when you make this change of bow. Okay? And always slow bows, especially in these diminuendos, obviously. Okay? But maintaining a good core to the sound.